Carter, Mueller's role in FBI Mobster cover-up raises serious questions about past as DOJ prosecutor, by Joshua Kaplan for thegatewaypundit.com. For months, the Gateway Pundit has been reporting on Special Counsel Robert Mueller's flaws exhibited in both the investigation into alleged Trump-Russia collusion during the 2016 presidential election and his personal track record as an attorney. Mueller's role in covering up for the FBI's longtime dealings with mobster and informant James Whitey Bulger raises serious questions about the special counsel's past as a Boston-based Justice Department prosecutor, Sarah Carter of Fox News writes. Sarah Carter reports in the early 1980s, before Mueller became the second longest-serving FBI director, he was a criminal prosecutor in the Boston office of the Justice Department. He later springboards to become the acting U.S. attorney in Boston from 1986 through 1987. Bulger was a kingpin and confidential informant for the FBI from the 1970s in the Bureau's efforts to take down the Italian mafia in Boston. But Bulger's relationship with his FBI handler, Special Agent John Connolly, became toxic. It was later discovered that Connolly went out of his way to protect Bulger and aided the crime boss against investigations being conducted by the Boston PD and the Massachusetts State Police. According to reports at the time, Connolly would inform Bulger of wiretaps and surveillance being conducted by law enforcement. In 2001, those four men were convicted in 1965 of Teddy Deegan's murder, were exonerated by the courts. It was discovered that the FBI withheld evidence from the court to protect their informant that would have cleared the men, according to reports. U.S. District Judge Nancy Gertner in Boston said the Bureau helped convict the four men of a crime they did not commit, and the three of them had been sentenced to die in the electric chair in 1972. Their death sentences were lifted in 1972, but at the time they were still serving life. Colleen Rowley, a former FBI special agent and former Minneapolis Division legal counsel of the FBI, wrote an op-ed in the Huffington Post last year. No, Robert Mueller and James Comey aren't heroes. Stated that when the truth about Bulger was finally uncovered through intrepid investigative reporting and persistent, honest judges, U.S. taxpayers footed a $100 million court award to the four men framed for murders committed by the FBI-operated Bulger gang. Despite what the media reports about Mueller, maybe his track record is not as pristine as he would like Americans to believe. Last October, Boston-based lawyer Harvey Silvergate penned an article for the WGBH recounting how Mueller, acting United States Attorney in Boston, attempted to entrap him. WGBH reports when Mueller was the acting United States Attorney in Boston, I was defense counsel in a federal criminal case in which a rather odd fellow contacted me to tell me that he had information that could assist my client. He asked to see me, and I agreed to meet. He walked into my office wearing a striking, flowing, white gauze-like shirt and sat down across from me at the conference table. He was prepared, he said, to give me an affidavit to the effect that certain real estate owned by my client was purchased with lawful currency rather than, as Mueller's office was claiming, the proceeds of illegal drug activities. My secretary typed up the affidavit that the witness was going to sign. Just as he picked up the pen, he looked at me and said something like, "You know, all of this is actually false, but your client is an old friend of mine, and I want to help him." As I threw the putative witness out of my office, I noticed under the flowing white shirt a lump on his back. He was obviously wired and recording every word between us. Silvergate is not the only lawyer this week to point out Mueller'S unfit to be special counsel. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Sidney Powell believes special counsel Robert Mueller is guilty of prosecutorial improprieties. While discussing former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara's motive behind prosecuting millionaire Las Vegas gambler Billy Walters, Powell says he akin Mueller convict people for sport. In other words, they convict people for sport. Wow. They will make sure whatever needs to be done to get that conviction gets done, says Powell. Powell told reporter Jerome Corsi, because Billy Waters was a famous and hugely successful sports gambler, Powell answered, because he was a multi-million-dollar investor who owned a $17 million private jet, because Preet Bharara had suffered a series of appeals court setbacks, and he valued bagging Billy Waters so he could have a new trophy to put on his wall. Many top federal law enforcement officials, including James Comey, as it appears, Robert Mueller as well, are willing to engage in illegal acts to win convictions, she stressed. They convince themselves or believe that someone is guilty of something, and then the end of obtaining any kind of conviction justifies whatever needs to be done to get that conviction. She continued, Bharara, Comey, and Mueller, all three are far too political and have great powers of rationalization. Some have called them dirty cops. To top it off, as the Clinton Uranium One scandal is heating up, it's important to recall Robert Mueller was head of the FBI from September 2001 to September 2013, until James Comey took over as FBI director in 2013. So in other words, they're despicable. They don't go by the law. They go by their own set of laws. So, I mean, this is very interesting to see how far back his corruption dates. And yet, everybody's afraid of him. If you notice how people speak of Mueller, oh, highly respectable, impeccable credentials, because they're terrified of this deep state operative here, because they know that they'll plant things on them just to get a guilty plea. I mean, can you imagine the criminality behind Mueller? I mean, it is frightening, and we just probably know just a tiny little bit of what he has been up to. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and again, thank you so much for watching.